The Free Thinker Show. Ignite your mind, challenge the norm.
Ever feel like that little piece of plastic in your wallet, your trusty debit card, has a secret life?
Yeah, it's easy to take it for granted.
We're about to uncover it, though, because today we're diving into a story of billion-dollar power plays, accusations of a monopoly, and what it all means for you, the average consumer.
It's true. I mean, you swipe, you tap, the money magically leaves your account, it seems.
Right.
But there's a whole financial ecosystem going on behind the scenes that you never see.
And at the center of it all is Visa, a company the Department of Justice is now suing, alleging they're acting like a monopolist.
And they've laid out their case in this new video they've released, arguing that Visa isn't just winning, they're deliberately pushing out the competition.
Okay, so let's break this down. Imagine you're a business owner. You need to accept debit cards, right?
Right. I mean, it's not even a question anymore, especially with our increasingly cashless society.
Exactly. But here's where it gets interesting. The DOJ is saying Visa leverages their dominance, their must-have status, to pressure businesses.
Yeah, and they're pointing to something called volume requirements as a key part of this strategy.
All right, time for a jargon check. What are volume requirements? It sounds like, I don't know, something out of a corporate finance textbook.
Yeah, so it's actually simpler than it sounds. Imagine like a point system, but instead of free coffee, you're dealing with millions of dollars in transactions.
Okay.
The DOJ argues that Visa requires businesses to route a certain volume of transactions through their network. If they don't meet the quota, they get hit with higher fees.
So even if a business found a better deal, a different network that was cheaper or more innovative, they'd be stuck with Visa because of these volume requirements.
That's the allegation. The DOJ says these requirements are essentially penalties, and they prevent other networks from really getting a foothold.
It's like those deals where you get a discount for, staying at the same hotel chain, but then you realize you're missing out on maybe unique experiences and even better prices elsewhere. So we're talking about billions of dollars here.
Precisely. And it's not just hypothetical. The DOJ specifically calls out major fintech players like Apple Pay, Square, and PayPal as competitors that Visa has allegedly tried to control.
Wait, I thought Visa partnered with some of those companies. How can they be competitors?
That's exactly the DOJ's point. They're saying those partnerships aren't as innocent as they seem.
Okay.
They argue that Visa uses these partnerships to kind of limit how much these companies actually compete with them. Imagine it like this. You agree to collaborate with a rival, but only on your terms, making sure they never get big enough to actually threaten you.
So it's like a, we'll play nice, but only if you stay in your lane kind of deal.
You got it. The DOJ claims this tactic, along with those volume requirements, are how Visa maintains their grip on the debit card market.
This all sounds, I don't know, pretty shady, but let's get to the heart of the matter.
Yeah.
How does this alleged debit card monopoly affect us, the everyday consumers?
Well, this is where those seemingly small fees that Visa charges start to add up. The DOJ says these fees total over $7 billion annually in the U.S. alone.
$7 billion. Wow, that's not just pocket change.
Exactly. And here's the kicker. Those fees get passed down from Visa to the businesses and ultimately to you in the form of higher prices.
So that $5 latte I bought this morning, a tiny fraction of that went straight to Visa.
It's impossible to say exactly how much ends up on your tab, but the DOJ argues that these fees contribute to an overall increase in prices.
So using my own money with my debit card actually comes with hidden costs.
That's the DOJ's argument, yeah. They claim these fees are artificially high because of Visa's practices, and that a more competitive market would mean, lower costs for everyone.
They're calling this a violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act. Can you explain what that means in plain English?
Sure. The Sherman Act has been around for over a century, but it's still the main tool the government uses to prevent monopolies and ensure fair competition.
So the DOJ is saying Visa's, must-have status means they've been breaking these rules.
They're arguing that Visa has abused their dominant position in the market. Those volume requirements on banks and merchants, the DOJ used those as a way to stifle competition, forcing everyone to play by Visa's rules, even if cheaper or more innovative options exist.
And those partnerships with potential rivals.
The DOJ doesn't really see them as partnerships at all. They call them unlawful agreements designed to stifle competition. So instead of competing fairly, they argue Visa used these tactics to neutralize any potential threats to their dominance.
It's incredible, isn't it? Something as simple as swiping my debit card turns out to be part of this, high-stakes legal thriller.
And it's a thriller with a lot more at stake than you might think. This case isn't just about debit cards. It's about what kind of financial system we want, for the future. One where a company can get so big, so powerful, that they basically call all the shots. Or one where we actually have, real innovation, real competition.
Okay, so paint a picture for me.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say the DOJ wins this thing. What happens next? Do we all have to, cut up our Visa debit cards?
No, don't worry. Your debit card's not going to suddenly stop working.
Okay.
But a win for the DOJ could force Visa to make some big changes, like fundamentally change how they do business.
No more volume requirements. You know? No more strong-arming businesses into using their network.
That's one possibility, yeah. The DOJ could push for those practices to be declared, straight up illegal. And that would really open the door for more competition from other networks and payment providers.
So instead of just Visa and MasterCard, right,
Yeah.
dominate the market, we might see a wider range of options.
Exactly. It's like right now, Visa's this toll booth that most transactions have to go through. But imagine a world with multiple toll booths, each with different rates, different benefits.
More competition usually means better prices for us, right, the
Yeah.
consumers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of Econ 101.
In theory, yeah. If the DOJ is successful, this could lead to lower fees for the merchants, which of course could translate into lower prices for consumers.
Yeah.
And a more competitive market, that could spark some serious innovation. Like we might see totally new payment systems pop up, systems that are cheaper, faster, more secure. Who knows?
Now that's what I'm talking about. But I mean, let's be real. These financial giants, they've got armies of lawyers, right?
Yeah.
What are the chances the DOJ actually pulls this off?
It's definitely not, a sure thing. Antitrust cases, they can drag on forever. They're super complicated. And Visa's obviously going to put up a fight. They'll argue that, hey, we got to where we are through good old-fashioned competition, that their size and scale are actually what allows them to offer the best services.
Okay.
And they'll probably say their practices actually benefit consumers in the long run.
Benefit consumers. How can they even say that with a straight face?
Well, they might argue that because Visa is so widely accepted, it makes transactions smoother, more convenient for everyone, right? And they might say that their dominance in the market ensures security, reliability for those transactions.
Yeah, I do love it when my card isn't declined.
Exactly. So they could argue that their size allows them to invest a ton of money in fraud prevention and security measures, which obviously benefits everyone. But the DOJ would probably counter with the argument that a lack of competition, that stifles innovation, and that a more diverse market, even with a few more hiccups, would be healthier in the long run.
It's a tough one. I mean, on the one hand, I love how reliable Visa is, how convenient it is. But on the other hand, more competition, potentially lower prices, that's pretty appealing too.
And that's the core issue here. Choice. The DOJ is arguing that Visa has limited consumer choice by basically creating a system where, they hold all the cards.
Right.
They believe a more competitive market would benefit everyone, well, except maybe Visa's bottom line.
So it's like the classic David versus Goliath story, but instead of slingshots and stones, we're talking about lawsuits and, billions of dollars.
And what's fascinating is this case, it's not just about Visa and the DOJ. It could have huge implications way beyond just, debit cards.
Okay, now you've got my attention. Tell me more.
Think about it. Visa's business model, they act as this powerful intermediary in this massive number of transactions. That's not exactly unique to them.
Now that you mention it, it does sound kind of familiar. It's like those online marketplaces that take a cut of every sale, or those food delivery apps that charge restaurants an arm and a leg.
Exactly. You're getting it. So this case could set a precedent for how those types of companies operate and, how much power they're allowed to have. If the DOJ wins, this could embolden regulators to take a closer look at other industries with similar, power dynamics.
So the Visa lawsuit, it's like a test case, a litmus test for how we approach all these huge tech companies that control so much of, our digital lives.
It's possible, yeah. It's early, but this case could be a turning point. We're seeing this global movement to rein in big tech, make sure there's a level playing field. And this definitely fits into that larger narrative.
This is all fascinating stuff, but let's bring it back down to earth for a sec. What does this case actually mean, for the average person, for small businesses?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, right? I mean, if the DOJ wins, we could see lower fees for merchants, which, like we said, could mean lower prices for consumers.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. Lower prices are always a good thing, especially these days.
Absolutely. But it's bigger than just prices, right?